means I start. I got it. Welcome to Shift Ed, everybody. We got to start with our promo here. Danny's not here for me to have some banter with. So, hey, Chris, you ever wanted to find like an education conference? And you're like, where do I look? I don't know where there are any.
You know, Adam, I'm always looking for opportunities to learn. What do you recommend?
So, wouldn't it be great if there was just a site that showed you like where all the conferences are in your state, in your area? Like, I want to find a technology conference that is in my state or in my town, or a conference for all educators anywhere in the world. Well, then you should check out the Education Calendar. The
Education Calendar? What's that?
Hashtag the Educal, the educal.com, a crowdsourced calendar and map of education events worldwide. Add yours today so we can share, learn, and grow together. Also new is the Education Calendar blog, launched just yesterday, where we will share the stories behind the events, and we're looking for contributors like you to share your reflections and your thoughts on professional learning experiences, conferences, and more. So that can be found at blog.theeducal.com.
Did I get that URL right?
I don't know if I set that one up, but I should. But it's definitely blog.theeducal.com. But if not, let's see. Oh, no, I did. They both work. Cool. I must have done that a while ago.
Excellent. And thank you to Adam and Danny for just being who they are and creating what they've created. So this is Shift Ed. It's March 15th, 2016. And tonight we're talking about being invisible in your classroom and why that's a good thing. So my name is Chris Nesi. I am Mr. Nesi on Twitter. I'm also the host of the House of EdTech podcast on chrisnesi.com. And tonight I am joined by fellow Ed Justice League member, Mr. Adam Schoenbart.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Schoenbart. I'm a high school English teacher and technology coach in New York. I am the co-creator of the Education Calendar at theeducal.com, if you hadn't guessed previously. And you can find my writing and all kinds of other stuff at aschoenbart.com.
Awesome. And not joining us, but so you know who are good people to follow in education, you want to be following Mr. AJ Bianco. He is at AJ Bianco on Twitter. You also want to follow Stacey Lindes. She is at iRunTech on Twitter. You also want to follow Miss Dani Kennis. She is at Kennis Dani, and that's Kennis like tennis, but with a K, as she likes to say today. I can go on. Okay, I won't. And also our good friend, Chrissy Romano. She is at The Connected EDU on Twitter. And let's do it. So tonight we're talking about being invisible. Adam, disappear and be effective. How do you do that?
See, it disappeared. See what I did there? So one of the things that we often talk about on Voxer is how the role of the teacher is changing in the classroom. And for some people, it's changed already. Some people, we're talking about ways that maybe it should change, or should it change, and what should the role of the teacher be in learning. And so I remarked earlier that today was one of the rare days where I could really only remember one day like this last year where I felt like, honestly, confidently, like I would stake my career on it. I could have walked out of my classroom and never come back, and nothing would have changed. My kids were into it. They were engaged. They were on. I was invisible. They were the ones controlling the learning. And I think that's not always the extreme you want to be at, maybe, I'm not sure, but that there's this kind of paradigm shift from teacher-centered to student-centered, and the role of the teacher is really in question sometimes. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, I agree. I've had a couple of days, and usually that's come from days where I've been doing like group activities and really put the lesson and the learning in the hands of the students, which is the whole way that we become invisible in the classroom. And I think the best reaction you could get would be when a kid would say, you know, we taught ourselves today. Mm-hmm. Or if a kid was to acknowledge, you know, it's like you weren't even here, Mr. Schoenbart.
Well, this one was like 2 years ago, so I feel kind of safe now. Really had to go to the bathroom one day in class. This is that I just walked out, and I was like, you know what? They're on task, and this was a class. I remember this moment 2 years ago, and I walk back in 2 minutes later, and my kids are all like, they all look up from working at each other, and when I walk over to them, and they're like, where'd you go? What are you doing? Like, they had no idea I was gone or where I went or anything. And it was, again, I like smiled and was like, You don't need me. Like you guys are on right now. And that felt like what, in my mind, what things should be for a lot of time.
So that might be a future topic. What do you do when you have to do I don't know. But that's always like the big teacher question. Like, you know, kids can just go anytime they ask. So maybe that's a whole topic for another.
It's a different debate, but I think it's a worthwhile one.
To quote Tina, who earlier said, I believe she said, shift happens. So I think that would be appropriate for that. So AJ has fielded a question from the chat. Thank you, AJ, for being in the text part of this. What is the benefit of a student-centered classroom?
I think for me, my two obvious, like top of my head answers are: it makes it more fun and engaging, both on we're working with kids, and we need to keep them on their toes. We need to keep them engaged, and giving them control and opportunity to really engage in learning and have power in that learning. The student-centered classroom, have voice, have an audience, and have variety and choice, and all these elements we talk about in terms of the student-centered classroom. I think that's important on sort of a more superficial level in terms of just engagement, but also in a more meaningful level for learning, in that when students are, it's like that cliche or adage or whatever, the idea, I remember, I don't know, 20% of what I hear, 30% of what I write, and I'm missing these numbers. You remember more of what you do than of anything else. So when students are doing something, when they are actively engaged in building that knowledge themselves or contributing to it in a meaningful way, it makes learning matter more, and it makes it more fun and more enjoyable for them.
Now, you mentioned enjoyable, so I'm going to ask you about that. But I think what that can be summarized in is when you give students the opportunity to take ownership of whatever they're reading or creating, I think the ownership component is what gives them the most value.
I totally agree. Well put.
I would say in the social studies classroom, and AJ can chime in on this as well, you know, I've never made it about, when I was in the social studies classroom, it was never about the dates and, you know, who won what battle. It was, for me, social studies was always the vehicle that I could get kids to think critically, to become better writers, and ultimately, if it was middle school, to be able to go and perform at the high school level. And when I was working with high school students, it was go to college or be able to just go out into the world and be productive members of society, and not be the town idiot, you know, but to be a contributor in a positive way. And the way I think you get there is by giving them ownership and having them discover the value in learning.
Yeah, I totally agree. And another thing that we talk about that I'd love to hear people's takes on is, what are ways to make that happen in different content areas or age levels? Like, what are some different strategies that work? And what are some things that work no matter your age level or content? Because I think there are things like, everybody's biased. Everyone is always biased in one way or another. But I think I tend to fall on the side of, like, I'm an English teacher. I teach literature, but really English, especially Common Core English, is all about the skills. So what I teach and how I teach it is ultimately irrelevant in the long run. By that I mean, I want my kids to remember the play we just finished, Fences, and remember what we do every day and have it change their lives. Yes, that would be awesome. And I want them to learn the value of good literature. I hope that's happening. But really, it's the skills and the long-term appreciation and understanding and ability to read, to write, to think critically. So for me, I have so much flexibility in how I design my lessons in terms of teacher-centered, student-centered, and other strategies, that I wonder how other people approach that in terms of more content-based areas or more test-focused outcomes.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned, talked about keeping it fun, but the other word that I like that you used was engagement. Mm-hmm. There are so many ways to do that. One of the ways that I always like to get the students engaged is, again, giving them that control where, you know, I'm letting go of the wheel. I'm giving them something to do. So whether it's that starting the lesson off with some sort of do now or kickoff activity, get them thinking, get them doing something. And I know now the big thing is, you know, if you're in a one-to-one situation or if you have devices available, you have your tools like Kahoot or Nearpod, or you get them creating using, Glogster or just something. But what are some of the ways that you in the English classroom get kids engaged?
So I'm all about most of the things that you just named there, but for me, it's a bigger, it's bigger than that for me. I think for me, it's all about classroom routine and expectations that my kids know almost every day they're going to have to actively contribute something. There is rarely a day where, like, I don't lecture. I do a lot of kind of mini, like, all right, 5-minute little introduction kind of things here and there, and they know they're going to hear from me as a whole class, but I'm not the teacher who's ever standing in front of the class for the whole period. If anything, I'm sitting with them in a conversation maybe. But I think that the shifting classroom expectations for me is important. So my kids know that when they have something to contribute, they have a lot of opportunities to just do it. That it's whether that's on discussion, whether we use Google Communities a lot to share as a class. We're starting to use Twitter. We used Today's Meet yesterday. So tools like that more and more that give students audience and voice while also tying in to academic purpose. And one of my kind of two of my go-to, I guess, mantras on this, you've heard me say before, all of us are smarter than one of us. In my class, my kids are talking to each other every day because they learn better, because it's more meaningful, because that's what we do in real life. But also, hold on, I had an also. There was something else good there, I think. Also, I want my kids to have higher level understandings and think critically all the time. I care more that they're doing that than what that thinking is. So for me, I'm not necessarily a teacher who's looking for every kid to contribute in the same way every time. But if we're on a Google community in a shared Google Doc or something usually shared and collaborative, and my kids are sharing and working towards a goal, then any contributions they make are meaningful and valued and always given an authentic audience. And for me, that's really powerful.
Definitely powerful. So we've started to hit on a couple of topics, and we do have some people here in the chat. What are your thoughts? How are you creating your student-centered classroom? Is it something you're doing all the time? Is it something you're doing occasionally from lesson to lesson? What are some of the tools and technology that you use? Oh, who's taking a picture?
I was screenshotting something working on a side project as we're going. I didn't realize it would make the noise.
No problem.
I was screenshotting you, or was I?
I don't know. I know that if you do there's a button here on Blab, you can click to share the last 30 seconds, and that will send out the video, last 30 seconds of video, and people can watch that. Whatever.
I just clicked it. So, and for all of you in the audience here, why don't you click that button too, or click the tweet button, and let's just add, Chris and I talk a lot. We're on Voxer all the time, and I love talking to Chris. But we also have 2 empty seats here, so if anyone is interested in joining the conversation, just jump on in.
Yeah, don't be shy. Well, we're waiting on people to gussy up and get their hair done. Adam, we kind of skipped over our challenge from last time, and in the last episode of Shift Ed, we were talking about how or who can you count on? Who would you put in your foxhole? And that was sparked by Dani's almost bad situation of making high school level lists and grouping colleagues, and we put a really positive spin on that idea. So our challenge last time was, who can you count on? And I will start by saying, I know after some things that have gone on all year in my school that I can 110% count on my principal, who is brand new to my school this year, because he gets me, which I haven't really had in an administrator yet that I've worked with. So he understands tech, and he leans on me. I can lean on him. I can bring him anything. And I would definitely go to battle for him as my principal. Who else would I take into my hole with me? In my high school, we have a dean of discipline who, based on what I do in in-school suspension, this gentleman, as the dean of discipline, we are also on the same page. And I let them know that all the time, that how much I appreciate them. And actually just yesterday, after a faculty meeting, my principal had to discuss some things with the whole staff, that I waited a half hour extra before I came home to tell him, I really appreciate how you just addressed what you just addressed with the staff. As an aspiring leader, I continue to look up to you as I look down at him because I'm taller. But who can you count on, Adam?
So before I share my thoughts on that, I just want to say I think it is entirely undervalued that the person-to-person thank you and connection, and it's something that I need to learn to do better. So we'll segue this. I can count on my friend Tina, who I've talked about actually on here before, and she keeps telling me she wants to watch and jump in on Shift Ed, so I'm going to tell her she was mentioned here. Tina is another coach in my school and one of my close friends and mentors. And we ran a district ed camp last time we were on Shift Ed. It was the next day, actually. So I was talking all about it. And afterwards, so many people came up to us and thanked us. And I sent out some email thank yous to admin and in general to people. And Tina said, we need to write everybody a thank you note. And we wrote handwritten notes to every single person who was involved in helping the day. And the amount of thank yous and goodwill and morale building that brought, it was something that it's not my go-to. It's not innate for me to think to do that. And she pushed me, and she wrote almost all of them because I tried and sucked at it. It was awful. And I recognized the value of that thank you and that connection, and recognizing the good people you work with and the people who not only you would have in your foxhole with you, but just being thankful for small contributions. And I think that's something I want to get better at. It's something that when we talk about the conversations in education often go negative. How do we bring it back to the positive? And I think that morale and that connection is important.
Well, two things on what you just shared. One, it's got to be the name. Anybody named Tina is just awesome.
Definitely.
So all Tinas are awesome. The second thing, a middle school I worked in, Adam, there was some teachers that were doing these, I don't know the formal name, but they had these little postcards, and they would write positive things that a student did, and they would slip it into a folder or give it to the kid, or some teachers would even take these and they would mail them to the home of the student. So good word about the kid got home to mom and dad or whoever was there who paid taxes. One of the teachers then suggested at the beginning of the school year, here are all these things. We're going to put blank ones in every teacher's mailbox, fill it out, and put it in somebody else's mailbox to share compliment or what you appreciate about what another staff member does in the building or what they've done for you. And they said it could be anonymous or you could sign your name to it, but just take a blank one, fill out this postcard, and then just drop it in somebody else's mailbox and highlight something that you like they do.
That's awesome. And again, something that I'm just not good at thinking about. And I really want to make a conscious effort to put those kind of ideas in my head more often.
Here's what you can do, Adam. Make the postcard blank, copy it, and just drop them in everybody's mailbox, and then see if people pick up on what to do. Put a one-line direction, fill this out. You don't even have to write one, just spark it.
We actually have a PBIS program, it's called, that has that kind of same idea for students. I've never actually used it, and I'm not sure many of my colleagues have, but I think it's those are the things I feel like I'm realizing more and more this idea that technology is not about technology, it's about building relationships, and that we need to kind of mix up the 21st century technology methods with traditional methods that are still more than valuable here. And I think that's an example of it. Katie, and my second person is my best friend at work, Katie, who actually told me today after my lesson that I should call every one of those kids' parents and make that a personal phone call telling them how awesome the kids were. And that's something I want to try to do this week that, again, I'm just awful at. That's not my strong suit in having that kind of follow through. And I think I think the value of that is wonderful. And I want to
challenge you right here, right now, to do that tomorrow on your own. Make those phone calls.
And I keep going I'll just send emails to the ones I have emails for. And I know that's not that's not the move here.
You can even script it. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Fill in your name. This is Mr. Schoenbart. And if you call during your lunch, odds are they're at work and they're on their lunch, and you just leave a voicemail.
Right. So Chris, when you meet these people who you'll meet at Tech Expo in April.
Very excited about that.
Yep. You've heard me talk about Katie and Tina all the time now. I've voxed about Katie with Dani today, just so Katie would hear it, and I could say, look, I'm telling the world about this. This is about you, I owe you here. I texted her after my fourth period class and said, this isn't working. I said, I'm going to try it again and figure it out. I think it was just a dud class today. Fifth period, it wasn't working. She said, what do you need? I said, I have no idea. She came in, sat down for 2 minutes, looked at the kids, looked at me and said, you need to leave now, kicked me out of my own class, ran my class for the last 15 minutes and troubleshooted with them. I came back in and they were all doing the lesson and it was working. And then she sat on her off period and helped me fix it and figure out what it needs to be. And that's the person I would have in my foxhole and walk. And that's the kind of person she is. So publicly to the world, I have given her full credit for all of my success.
Is she on Twitter? Can you plug her? Can people follow her?
She's on Twitter, yes. And it would be awesome if you all tweeted at her. She is on Twitter. She doesn't use it often, but she has the notifications on her phone because I came back to her class and they were doing an awesome lesson. And I tweeted at her and said, Mrs. Helly is teaching me what Socratic seminars should look like. I am double checking her Twitter handle and I'm going to put it in our chat. So if anyone wants to follow Mrs. Helly or tell her she is awesome, highly recommended.
Make her phone blow up with notifications.
Yeah, she is at Mrs._Helly. I'll put that in here. Yeah, so you should all, if you're a follower or something there. All right. So I guess it's just me and you tonight, Chris.
And that's perfectly okay. We do have some comments coming in. Tracy has also used the postcards, and she calls them good news cards. And she does them at the beginning of the year before school. Is at the beginning of the year, Tracy, before school starts or before the school day? You just clarify for us. Misrepresent you.
I like that. This year, I did email. I worked really hard to collect all my parent emails, and I went into our LMS. I called home for some. I asked kids. I asked guidance counselors, and anyone. Then I emailed everyone to introduce myself and asked parents to opt in or out of emails. So for easy communication, for quick little things, I do send emails all the time, and I find it to be so helpful. But I definitely think there's times where that handwritten note or that phone call, I think is essential here. All right, before the school year starts and during. I like that and during. That's what I need to get better at. Maybe one of our future topics could be how to strategies for building morale in parent communication or something like that.
Throw it in the Google Doc, and that's a topic.
All right, I like it. So we have how to pee when you're a teacher and building morale and parent communication. 2 upcoming shift eds.
Oh, that's great.
Put it on your calendar, everybody.
What other calendar can they put it on?
Well, I'm not sure we're going to add that one to the EduCal just yet. We're branching out, but that seems a little much. I will think about it, though.
You mean Shift Ed doesn't qualify as a bi-weekly virtual conference?
I mean, I'm good with Shift Ed being there. I just I'm not sure we're going to get it specific to how do teachers pee on the EduCal. We'll see though, maybe.
Man, I tell you, time flies here on Blab. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I got to say, I think we're getting better at this. Our first one, I skipped number 2. This is now number 4, right?
Yes.
So I think number 1, we're working at some kinks, but last time and this time, I think our flow is much better. What do you think, Twitter and audience?
Well,
we're awesome.
In my opinion, the last couple of those first times, there were 4 of us, or 3 of us, and hopping in and out. Not that I'm saying we can't get that to work, but it does take work to take the chemistry we have on Voxer and our daily communication and have it translate into a live broadcast.
Absolutely. And that was a Mr. Bianco, I think, contribution. That the next day we were like, we think that went pretty well. And he jumped right in. He said,
nope.
Here's how I think we can make it better. Guys, we were all talking over one another. We need to moderate the chat a little more. And I think all his ideas were spot on there. Yes, best one, says Tracy. I agree, Tracy.
Tracy, if you were here in the video, we would be giving you props.
Yeah.
I'm going to divert your props over to Adam.
Woohoo!
What else is in our notes for tonight?
Some sort of challenge. Now we didn't quite clarify our challenge expectations presentations for today, but I had an idea based on Stacey's latest Vox.
Take it
All right, so I don't know quite where I'm going with this, but I think because Stacey led with it, maybe this is our next episode or something on these lines. In education, we often have to make change. Oftentimes, like tonight, we're talking about change that tends to be teacher-driven. We realize we want to make shifts in our classroom to benefit our students and their learning. But oftentimes, we have certifications that are bigger than any one class or subject. I'm an English teacher, 7 to 12. They want to put me, I teach 10th grade. Sometimes I teach 9 or 12. They could throw me off 7th grade if they wanted to, and I would be miserable. So how do we deal with changes in education and changes that often aren't the ones we want them to be, and how do we make the best of them, especially this time of the year when vacancies are coming out and they're starting to talk about staffing for next year? How do we make the best of the not so great situations, and how do we I don't have an end after that. Something there I think is where.
How about this? How do we deal with unexpected or even unwanted change in education?
I like it. That's good.
Broad yet specific.
So what's our challenge with that?
A challenge. Be prepared to share a story in 2 weeks on, what's 2 weeks from now? Calendar. On the 29th, and be prepared to share a story either in chat or use the hashtag on Twitter, either when you've dealt with a challenge in education or when somebody you know may have dealt with a challenge. And we have a caller tonight.
Tina.
What's up?
You're on the air.
I know.
What's up, Tina?
I jumped in. I wasn't in my pajamas yet. I just have to say one of the biggest challenges that I feel this time of year is kind of staying in the here and now. While there's so much of this planning going on, I mean, we're already talking about the summer PD and we're talking about what's going on in September, and it's so difficult to just go, my goodness, I got so much to do in front of me. My kids aren't ready yet to leave. So that's a big challenge.
It's hard to always be in the now while looking forward in education, which is kind of one of the things that we're often forced to do. I agree.
And anticipate good stuff coming up, but it leaves you a little anxious, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Tina, since this is your first time on Shift Ed, can you tell everybody a little bit about you, where you work, how they can connect with you?
Well, I love Twitter, so that's where I spend most of my time. If you want to connect with me at Tina Monti. I'm in Florham Park. I'm in a K district. I do a little bit of everything for them. I'm a special ed teacher, though, by nature. I do a little tech integration. I do a little coaching. So I'm one of those kind of people. I got my hands in everything. So.
Oh, and Tracy has mentioned Will Richardson in the chat. Tracy, I don't know where you're from, but I think everybody here is. Tina, are you going to be going to TCT in May?
Yes, of course.
Will Richardson's doing the keynote.
That's right.
He is.
So for
I've
anybody
been handing out pamphlets everywhere I go.
For anybody who is in the area, TCT 2016, Tomorrow's Classrooms Today, is going to take place at Rider University. And if you'd like more information about that, you can go to evolvingeducators.com. That is the education conglomerate made up of Brad Curry, Billy Power, and Scott Rocco.
Hashtag.
I believe tickets are only $49 for that for teachers. And if you're a teacher who's a continuing education student, you've got a college ID, you can knock that down to $35.
Sounds like a good deal to me. I will be there.
Get that Manhattanville ID out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, presenter. So not having to worry about it here, but I have yet to actually use a student ID since I've been a student again. That's an awesome idea. I should get on that more.
Are you presenting there?
Yes, I am.
What's the topic?
So I am presenting a new presentation that actually is I'm trying to recarve my niche a little bit, and Chris and other people have kind of always told me this is what I should be doing, and I think they're right. It is using advanced Google Forms and Sheets add-ons for assessment and feedback. We always talk, and I'll talk about a way I'm using a form for peer assessment or to make my grading so much faster and easier. And I love Google Sheets and add-ons and kind of programming and adapting existing add-ons. And it's one of those things I've talked about so many times with Chris and AJ and everyone that they just keep going, why aren't you doing sessions on that? And so my goal is a hands-on session where we kind of as a group pick the 2 or 3 from the list that we want to practice with. And I have all the resources ready to go with kind of mini modules and hands-on learning. And I'm actually going to debut this session this weekend at the Google, the New York City Metro Google Apps Event Summit. That's what it's called, on Saturday, where Dani and I will be.
Get out of the way, Alice Keeler.
We'll see, but it's funny. The
post version.
Yeah, maybe. When I met her spreadsheet stickers, the answer is always a spreadsheet. Those are my favorite stickers.
There you go.
Yeah, Adam's going to have a lot of success with that presentation, and he's doing the AP version of that topic, and last week I did the kindergarten version of that topic.
It's all good.
Tina, are you presenting at TCT or just attending?
No, I'm not. I was actually this week at the New Jersey Association for the Middle Levels Educators at King University. So that was a great day.
Nice.
Baruti was there. So.
Did he turn up? You got to turn up education.
We got fired up this time.
Fired up.
Yep. It was awesome.
That's great.
Yep. So excited about that. All right, guys, I'm going to pop off, but I just wanted to say hi. I wanted to be brave.
Was it bad?
Thank you for being brave.
I'm like, oh, it's okay. Anyway.
Oh.
And by the way, Tina just celebrated a birthday on Sunday, so happy birthday, Tina.
50.
No, I don't believe it.
I'm only 3 days into it. It's kind of painful.
You don't look a day over 30.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll see you guys.
Take care, Tina. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
All right, so Chris, I have a new level to the challenge.
Go on.
Not only be prepared to share a story of uncomfortable change and how you dealt with it, to kind of put a story behind this idea, but let's try to motivate some people to jump on into the open seats and do it next time. That you've seen us do it today, you saw Tina do it. So if you're in our audience today, next time, hop on in.
Look, I got to say, I agree with that because no insult to you or I, but we have faces for radio, and here we are doing a live video.
Yourself. Joke of the day.
Creepy Adam. Okay. Yeah, there's a reason I do an audio podcast. But hey, you don't have to be Ariana Grande to hop on here and be looking all great.
But if you were Ariana Grande and you wanted to join us, that would be cool too.
It's good to have goals for the plan.
Maybe she's listening.
But yeah, definitely. People come prepared next time. Again, the next Shift Ed is going to be on March 29th, and we're going to be talking about challenges and unwanted challenge and how we deal with them in education. Adam, what do you say we put a bow on this?
Let's do it.
All right. Where can we find your stuff, Adam?
Find me on Twitter at Mr. Schoenbart and my blog, aschoenbart.com. It'll be tomorrow afternoon, updated with a reflection on today.
Awesome. And once again, my name is Chris Nesi. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Nesi. And I am also the host of the House of Ed Tech podcast. You can find that on my website on chrisnesi.com. So for Adam, myself, AJ, Bianco, Tracy, we don't know a Tracy, Stacey Lindes, Dani Kennis, and Chrissy Romano, thank you for joining us. And we will see you 2 weeks.
Thank you, everybody.